I'm known in the family circle and amongst friends as Jack, but I was christened Charles Henry immediately following the First World War in 1919. Brought up in the local village of Ebley in the district of Stroud in Gloucestershire. There was a family of 5 children and mother and father. There were 7 of us. Regrettably, in the very early stages, I lost 2 brothers, one with meningitis and one with diphtheria. One of my elder brothers, Albert, it died just as mother was expecting me, and it must have been a terrible shock to her. Anyway, in those days, there was no place where those who had passed on were rested up until the burial. So my brother who had passed away was still lying in the next room while I was being born. And of course he was buried a few days after I was born, and mother was unable to get to the funeral. But as soon as she was up and able again, she took me along the lagger from Ebley to King's Cross Church and carried me along there to say her farewells, I suppose. Having started work at 14, after about 2 years there, but coming up to my 16th birthday, the country was putting these placards out advertising, join the Royal Navy and see the world, which attracted me no end. And I'd gone through all my basic trainings, and then you go into what they call the senior service, and on the active service list, and I was drafted to the Montrose, which was put out of commission due to a bombing, and then I was drafted to a job number up at Birkenhead. Not knowing what it was, it turned out to be HMS Prince of Wales. The war was on, and the scare of the German battleship Bismarck was reported that she had left a Norwegian fjord and was making for the open sea, and we were alerted with HMS Hood to go out and cut her escape route off into the Atlantic, where we expected her to break loose and play havoc with our convoys at the time. And we were mauled pretty badly and had to pull out of the action. We had numerous hits, and the captain ordered to put up a smoke screen, and we escaped out of it. Otherwise we should have had the same fate as the Hood. Following that, she was assigned to a secret mission to take Churchill in the war cabinet out to meet President Roosevelt for what was known as the Atlantic Charter meeting. And that trip took us over to Placentia Bay in Newfoundland. And we were greeted by American warships who were escorting President Roosevelt, and we were there for about 4 days on these meetings. During the time, there was a church service on the Sunday of the full ship's company. Roosevelt and nearly all his chiefs of staff came over as well, and it was quite a memorable occasion. In fact, our ship's cat, which we had on board, which had been with us for some time, and was about to walk over the gangplank and follow Roosevelt and his party onto the American ship. But from memory, Mr. Churchill bent down and prevented the cat from leaving the ship. From there, I was in Singapore up to 24 hours before the Japanese came in. We were in what they called the Fleet Shore Accommodation, and everyone who was not engaged on any specific duty, manning the guns or anything of that nature, were ordered to make our way down to the dockyard and on board. There were 2 American ships transporters that came in, and they were bringing in fresh troops and nurses and various other people. And as they were unloaded, all the people that I've just mentioned who were not required for any specific duty were taken on board for transit out of Singapore, and I was one of the lucky ones. There was a lot of wounded people amongst them, nurses and so forth, and wounded soldiers and sailors and airmen. And the Americans just made space for us to get our heads down. When I mention heads, I mean to sleep anywhere, even just lying on the decks was better than having to stay in Singapore and face the prospects of imprisonment. Well, as I previously stated, I was a time-serving man, and my time did not expire until July 1949, which was some 4 years after the war had ended. I was encouraged to sign on for a full pension. The commanding officer spoke to me and said that about the prospects in Civvy Street. Well, the wife and I were what you might call homeless, really. So there was this job going Hoffman's, so I took that, which was what a lot of people was doing at the time. It seemed the only prospect for anyone leaving the service to go into industry. But after about six weeks, I just felt that I could not be shut up in a factory for the rest of my life, my working life anyway. So a local councillor came to me and he said, there's an ex-serviceman leaving the school and emigrating to Australia with his family. He said it involves a tied cottage and a steady job. He said he thinks it might suit me. But from the offset, it took a while to readjust from service life to running a school. The work, the routine was different. I was given a free hand, as you might say, to run the school from a caretaker's point of view. From the service life, I hadn't been really accustomed to being amongst young children, as you might say, and some of them were little devils. I had no end of things to put up with, I can assure you. And I found the toilets blocked up, you know, and on occasions there were knives and forks from the school canteen had been put down the toilet and blocking the system up. And I even found children's sandals pushed down the toilet. Believe me, the stories I could tell you, but I'll keep some of them to myself, I think. I've been caretaker there for just short of 35 years. The estimate of pupils that I had presented to me was some 22,000 children passed through that school in the years that I were there. Well, as I said, we were living in this tied cottage at the school, and of course we had to vacate it once my term of employment came up, and the council offered us this bungalow here at Chestnut Avenue, where I've been ever since. My wife's name was Vera May, but she was nicknamed Peggy from an early stage, and it stuck with her all her life, by her school friends and all the way through the family. We always called her Peggy. My first 9 years of marriage, I was still serving, so I've seen very little of her, really. It was only when I came out of the service that we were able to really settle down to married life. And, I was 89 myself when she passed away, so at that age it wasn't easy taking on the running of a home on my own. All the domestic things involved with the home, washing, cleaning, ironing, and as I say, shopping and cooking your own meals and all those kind of things. But I suppose, looking back, the Navy had a lot of bearing on that. self-discipline and ability to adapt to most things, you know. And I got through it anyway, and here I am today. I don't think I'm doing too badly.